Hey everyone, it's the middle of November, which means it's almost Christmas, which means you've probably started Christmas shopping. If you haven't already, you probably should because I think the shipping is going to get a little hectic. But once you find your perfect gift, you are going to want to wrap it. And there's nothing better than a nicely wrapped gift, especially one that's personalized and just a little extra special. So I have a few ideas on how you can do that. All the supplies are pretty easy to find. You could probably find them at a local craft store or a dollar store. The stamps I use in the video can be found on my Etsy store, which I will link in the description. All of the ideas are pretty easy to do. You don't need any specific talents. So if you're curious and want to try out one of these, just keep on watching.
First up, we have this craft and black kind of theme going on. I bought my craft paper from the local post office, but you could probably get it off Amazon. And then I just made sure to measure the box I'm using with the paper so that I have enough paper. And then I rolled out that sheet and then just went crazy with my stamp. I'm using this tree stamp from my Etsy store and just regular black ink pad, and just kind of going in a pattern where some of them are facing up and some of them are facing down, and continuing on until I fill the entire sheet. This is pretty easy, and you don't have to be exact because once you wrap the box, it's not going to be as noticeable if you kind of mess up the pattern. So now I'm just going to wrap it up, and I always fold the end of the sheet that's going over top just so it has a nice finish to the edge. And then I just cut the ends so that it's not like overlapping so much. So now that the present is wrapped, I'm going to want to finish it with a tag and a bow. So I'm going to go and make the tag now. I'm going to do this with cardstock and an embosser. You can buy those tags from Michael's or make them on your Cricut. And then you'll need that embossing ink pad and some embossing powder. I'm using white because I thought it would look nice against the black cardstock. But you can't really tell in the video that it's embossed, but it has just like a nice shiny finish that almost looks like kind of plasticky. So it looks a little bit nicer than just drawing it on. All you have to do is stamp the embossing pad onto the sheet, and then you cover it with the embossing powder, and you make sure to cover everything, and then you just shake it off and make sure that all the powder's gone from the cardstock, and you can reuse the powder by just putting the rest into your container. You'll then need a heat gun. I grabbed this one from Michael's as well. And then once the heat gun warms up, you can just put it over the powder, and it just turns it from powder into like a plastic kind of finish basically. And to finish the tag off, I'm just going to hand letter my sister's name, and I'm using a white gel pen because I find that they work quite nicely on dark cardstock. To attach my tag, I have a couple options: the twine or this fake like white leather ribbon that I got from Dollarama. So I'm going to use that because it's just a little thicker, so I think it will look nice, especially with the white in the tag. So I just did your standard like wrap around, and then I fed the tag through the string and then tied a bow. And I think it looks really cute. It's definitely more Scandinavian feeling, and I like how big the tag is because you can really see like who it's for right away. So the next one, this one's actually my favorite. I printed these illustrations onto fabric and wrapped it up. So to do this, you're going to need something to carve out of. This is just like a lino block from Speedball. It's their Speedy Carve. And to transfer the image, as soon as I got the sheet printed out of my printer, I placed my rubber block on top, and it kind of leaves a little bit of the ink on the rubber block. And then I trace over this with a pen. If you don't have a rubber block, you could probably use something like a rubber eraser for small designs. However, these sheets of rubber are pretty inexpensive, and you can find them on Amazon or at a craft store, and you can use them for a lot of different things. So I usually just buy a big sheet and then cut it up into smaller pieces, which is what I'm doing now. So then I can actually use that like long piece that's left over. I can carve something else out of there if I want to. So if you buy one big sheet, you're pretty good for a few designs. And now I'm using this speedball carving tool. It comes with a bunch of different sizes. So I usually start with the tiniest one first and carve out around my shape. So just carving out the outline. And then once I finish with the outline, I switch to a larger tool to kind of get out more of the rubber that's left. So I'll just let you watch this time lapse because it's quite satisfying when you do this and when you watch it. Okay, now that we've got them all carved out, I'm going to use the Speedball fabric paint, and I'm using an old pillowcase for this. I'm sure you can find some fabric around to recycle, but if you don't have Speedball paint, you can also use an ink pad like VersaCraft. They have specific ones for fabric and it won't wash out. Don't use a regular pad because it will wash out. Either a fabric screen printing ink or fabric block printing ink, or the fabric stamp pad will work. Once you got your rubber all inked up, you're then just going to stamp it on the fabric. You have to be careful because you don't want to have like a smudge or double image, so just do it slowly and then make sure to press down on all the sides so that you get a nice, clean, crisp transfer. So I'm all done printing. It actually didn't take that long and it was a lot of fun to do. And this is what the final result looks like. I think it looks really cool. You could do this even for regular pillowcases and not for a present. So now I'm going to do a clay tag because I thought that would match the fabric really well. I'm using a white polymer clay and just kind of putting it into a ball by rolling it around in my hands. This will just make it easier for me to make a circle shape. To do that, I just press down on it with my palm and then kind of use my finger to flatten it out. I then used a metal straw as my rolling pin to get it really nice and flat on the top. And then I have these leather punches that I use for leather crafts. So if you don't have these, you could probably find something similar. But to make the hole in the top to add the tag, I'm using a very, very, very tiny paintbrush. And then I use a knife to take it off of my surface, which I don't know if is the best idea, but you can reshape it afterwards and put it back into a nicer circle. But the organic shape is nice too. You'll then need to pop these in the oven at 300 degrees for about 15 minutes. It depends on your clay. And then they should come out hardened like you would expect with clay. So I'm now wrapping up my present the same way I do with paper, but there's lots of cool ways you can use fabric to wrap a present. So just Google it or check on Pinterest. And then I'm using this twine the same way as I did for the other present. I did find it a bit thin, so I added another layer of twine with some waxed leather to make the bow just a little bit more interesting. All right, this is the last wrapping idea. This time I'm going to be doing a gold embossing, which looks really cool. I'm wrapping this small box with regular 8.5 by 11 printer paper because it is small, so it fits. But to make the printer paper just a little bit more interesting than plain white, I'm using the holly stamp that I used at the beginning of my video to stamp all over the paper, just kind of randomly with no rhyme or reason. And I'm going to do another embossed tag. However, this time I'm going to be using a gold embossing powder. The gold embossing powder is probably my favorite because it has such a nice metallic finish, But since you already saw how I did it in a more detailed way, I'm going to show you just a quick TikTok video that I had posted with the embossing. So to bring it all together, I'm going to wrap it up. Again, I'm using this fake leather ribbon that I got from Dollarama, and then just tying it around twice just to give it a little bit more of an interest, and then adding my tag onto it. Honestly, no idea what kind of knot I was trying to do here, but I finally got one that worked, and then I just cut off the end so it's just the tag that's hanging. And I think it looks really cute. Definitely love the gold embossing the best.
So that's it. If you try any of these wrapping ideas, I'd love to see them. You can tag me on Instagram at Sarah Types. And if you have any other ideas or Christmas kind of themed videos you want to see, just let me know in the comments.